There are monsters that howl in the dark, and there are monsters that learn to whisper. Sable Dawnridge knows the difference. For 10 years, she has lived at the edge of a quiet village where frost clings to the earth and the forest watches without blinking. She is their healer, their quiet mercy, the one they trust when blood spills and breath falters. They do not know what she becomes when the moon disappears. She has rules, rituals, chains that bite into bone, sigils carved in trembling hands. Every new moon, she locks herself away and waits for the change to pass. It always has, until now, because something is shifting. The transformations are lasting longer, going deeper. And when Sable wakes, she no longer finds only emptiness where memory should be. She finds traces, blood that is not hers, marks she does not remember making. And in the forest, the dead are beginning to speak, through torn flesh and deliberate wounds that do not belong to any mindless beast. Something is hunting, something that thinks, something that knows her. As fear coils through the village and suspicion begins to turn, Sable is forced to face a truth more terrifying than any curse. What if the thing inside her is not losing control? What if it is finally gaining it? And worse, what if it has been choosing all along? This is The Hollow Mercy of Sable Dawnridge, Chapter 1, The Healer Who Does Not Bleed. The frost came early that year, clinging to the earth like a thing unwilling to let go. It silvered the thatch roofs of the village and crept along the narrow paths between homes, settling into the cracks of doors and the bones of those who lived within. Smoke rose in thin, hesitant lines from chimneys, as though even fire feared to linger long in that place. Sable Dawnridge stood at the edge of it all. Her cottage leaned into the forest shadow, where the trees grew too close together and the light struggled to reach the ground. The villagers said it was practical, closer to the herbs, closer to the roots and bark she used in her remedies. But no one ever asked why she never moved closer to them, and she never offered. Inside, the air smelled of dried lavender, iron, and something bitter beneath it all. "Hold still," Sable said quietly. The boy on her table trembled, his small hands clenched into fists as she stitched the gash along his forearm. The wound was clean, too clean for a fall. "You said he slipped," she added, not looking at the man standing behind her. The boy's father shifted his weight. He did. Sable's needle passed through flesh with careful precision. On what? A rock. Her eyes flicked upward then, sharp and brief. Rocks do not bite. Silence filled the room, heavy, uneasy. The boy whimpered as she pulled the thread tight, and Sable softened her voice. "It's nearly done." She finished the stitching in silence, tying the knot with practiced hands. Her fingers were steady, always steady. That was what they trusted. Not her warmth, not her kindness, her control. She wrapped the arm in clean linen and pressed a small vial into the father's hand. 2 drops in water, morning and night. Keep it clean. The man hesitated. Will it scar? Yes. A pause. Will he be all right? Sable met his eyes fully then. There was something in her gaze that made him straighten, as though caught in a truth he had not spoken aloud. "He will live," she said. It was not comfort. It was a promise shaped like a warning. When they left, the cottage fell into stillness once more. Sable did not move right away. Her hands rested on the table, Fingers splayed slightly, as though feeling for something beneath the wood. Her breath came slow, measured, counted. 1, 2, 3. She lifted her right hand and studied it. There, along the edge of her nail, was a dark stain she had missed. Her stomach tightened. She crossed to the basin and plunged her hand into the cold water, scrubbing harder than necessary. The stain resisted at first, clinging stubbornly before finally dissolving into thin red threads that bled into the basin. Not hers. It never was. Sable dried her hands carefully, methodically. Then she turned. The back room waited. She had built it herself, over years. Reinforced walls, iron rings set deep into the stone, chains coiled neatly along the floor, carved sigils etched into every surface that would hold them, bone, wood, even the metal itself. Nothing had been left to chance. Nothing had been allowed to fail. Her gaze moved over each piece, checking, measuring, remembering. The new moon would rise tomorrow night. She could already feel it. Not as a pain, not as a hunger. Something quieter, something watching. Sable stepped into the room and closed the door behind her. The air inside was colder, stiller. It did not carry the sense of herbs or smoke. Only iron, only stone. She knelt beside the chains and ran her fingers along them, testing each link. There were marks she did not remember making. Deep grooves, warped metal. Her breath caught. No, that was not possible. She had reinforced them after the last cycle, strengthened the sigils, adjusted the tinctures to dull the edge of the change. It had held. It always held. Her mind moved quickly, sorting through possibilities, rejecting each one as it rose. Faulty memory, stress, fatigue, not failure, never failure. She stood and crossed to the far wall, where a mirror hung, old, tarnished, its surface warped just enough to distort the truth without fully hiding it. Sable stared at her reflection. Dark hair pulled tight at the nape of her neck, pale skin drawn thinner than it had been a year ago, eyes too sharp, too aware. She raised her hand. The reflection followed. For a moment, just a moment, she thought she saw something lag behind, a fraction too slow, a breath out of step. Her hand lowered. The reflection obeyed. Silence pressed in around her. "You are tired," she said aloud. The sound of her own voice felt like an intrusion. She turned away from the mirror and moved back into the main room, forcing herself into motion. Routine anchored her. Routine kept the edges from fraying. She began preparing the tinctures for the coming night. Blackroot, ground to powder. Ash leaf, steeped until the water darkened. A measure of bitter oil that clung to the tongue and dulled the senses. Each ingredient placed with care, each motion deliberate. This was how she survived. Not hope, not denial, control. Outside, the light began to fade. The forest stirred as it always did at dusk, branches creaking softly, leaves whispering secrets to one another. It had a voice, that forest, not one that spoke in words, but in presence, in attention. It was listening. Sable felt it as she corked the final vial, a weight at the edge of her awareness. She set the vial down slowly. "No," she murmured. The word was not defiance. It was a boundary. She moved to the window and looked out toward the tree line. The shadows there seemed thicker than they should be, pooling between the trunks, stretching longer as the last light bled from the sky. For 10 years, she had kept it contained. For 10 years, no one had been harmed. That was the truth she held to. The truth she needed. A sound broke the stillness. A knock at her door. Not the hesitant tap of someone seeking aid. Something harder. Urgent. Sable's spine straightened. She crossed the room and opened the door. 3 villagers stood there, their faces pale, their eyes wide with something she knew too well. Fear. "We found him," one of them said. Sable's grip tightened on the doorframe. "Found who?" The man swallowed. "Marek, the miller's son." A pause. "In the forest." The words settled like ash. Sable did not speak immediately. She did not allow herself to. "Is he alive?" she asked at last. No one answered. They did not need to. Something cold slid through her chest, sharp and precise. "Show me," she said. They led her into the forest as the last light died completely. The trees closed in around them, their branches knitting together overhead until the sky disappeared entirely. The path was uneven, roots twisting beneath their feet like something alive. No one spoke. Even the forest seemed to hold its breath. They found him in a clearing. Sable knew what she would see before she stepped into it. She knew, but knowing did not soften the truth. Marek lay twisted on the ground, his body broken in ways that spoke not of rage, but of intent. The wounds were placed with a terrible precision, not wild, not frenzied, measured. Sable knelt beside him slowly. Her hands hovered above the body, not touching. Her breath came shallow now, controlled, always controlled. She forced herself to look closer. The cuts, the angles, the way the flesh had been opened, not torn. Her stomach turned. This was not the work of a beast. This was something that understood what it was doing, something that chose. A flicker of memory pressed at the edge of her mind. Darkness, movement, the sound of breath that was not quite her own. She pulled back sharply, the image vanishing before it could fully form. "No," she whispered. One of the villagers stepped closer. "Can you tell what did this?" Sable looked at the body again, at the careful violence etched into every wound, at the silence that clung to the clearing, and then she looked at her own hands, clean, steady, unshaking. "I don't know," she said. The lie came easily, too easily. As they carried the body back toward the village, Sable walked behind them, her gaze fixed on the ground, on the faint impressions in the soil. Tracks, not quite human, not quite anything she could name, but familiar. Her chest tightened, because for the first time in 10 years, Sable Dawnridge was no longer certain that her rules had held, and somewhere deep beneath her skin, something stirred. Chapter 2. The Shape Beneath the Skin. The village did not sleep that night. It held its breath instead. Lanterns burned longer than they should have, casting thin, trembling light through shuttered windows. Doors were barred. Voices were hushed. And everywhere, beneath the quiet, there was a question no one dared ask aloud. What had come out of the forest? Sable stood alone in her cottage, her hands resting against the edge of the table, her head bowed just slightly, as though listening for something too faint for others to hear. She had washed them 3 times. Still, she could feel it. Not the blood, the memory of it. Her fingers curled slowly. "You are losing control," she whispered. The words should have frightened her. Instead, they felt incomplete, because control had always meant something simple, something defined. Chains, sigils, timing, a system. But systems did not account for this, for the way her thoughts kept circling back, not to the horror of what had been done to Marek, but to the precision of it, the intent. She closed her eyes, and for a moment, she saw it. Not clearly, not fully, but enough. The forest, darker than it should be. The sound of breath, steady, measured. The sensation of weight shifting beneath her skin, not violently, but deliberately. A hand, her hand, pressing against something warm. A voice, not heard, understood. This one runs. Her eyes snapped open. Sable staggered back, her shoulders striking the wall. "No," she said, louder now. "No." That was not memory. That was something else. Something closer. She forced herself to move, to break the stillness before it could deepen. The back room called to her, not with fear, but with something sharper. Doubt. She entered it quickly. The chains lay where she had left them, neat, coiled, unbroken. Sable stared. Her breath slowed. No, that was wrong. She stepped closer, kneeling beside them, her fingers tracing the links. There, a flaw, not broken, unfastened. Her stomach dropped. She followed the chain to its anchor point on the wall. The iron ring was intact. The sigils carved into the stone around it remained unbroken, their lines still sharp, still potent. But the clasp, it had been opened, not torn free, not forced, opened. Sable's hand hovered over it, trembling now despite her will. She had designed these restraints herself. There was only one way to release them. You had to know how. "You secured them," she murmured. "You always secure them." Her voice faltered, because that was true. It had to be. It had to be. Slowly, she rose to her feet and turned toward the mirror. The warped glass caught her reflection again, pale, drawn, eyes too bright in the dim light. "Tell me what you did," she said. The reflection said nothing, but something in it felt expectant. Sable stepped closer. "You don't get to choose," she said, quieter now. That was the rule. Her reflection tilted its head, just slightly. A motion so small it could have been imagined. Except Sable had not moved. The silence that followed was suffocating. Then, a knock, sharp, insistent. Sable turned, her body already moving before her thoughts could catch up. She crossed the cottage and pulled the door open. 2 men stood there, both armed, not with tools, with blades. "We need you," one said. "Now." Sable's gaze flicked between them. "What is it?" "A second body." The words hit harder this time. Not surprise, confirmation. "Where?" she asked. They did not answer with words, only a glance toward the forest. Sable nodded once. "I'll come." She did not take her satchel. There would be no healing tonight. The path into the forest felt different, heavier. The air pressed closer, thicker, as though the trees themselves had drawn nearer. The lantern light barely held the dark at bay, shadows shifting just beyond its reach. Sable walked at the front this time, not because they asked her to, because she needed to see. They found the body deeper in than before. That was the first difference. The second was worse. The man lay against the base of a great twisted oak, his limbs arranged, not scattered, not broken. Placed. Sable stopped several paces away. Her breath slowed. Her mind sharpened. No, not sharpened, focused. The others hung back, waiting, watching her. "Don't touch him," she said. Her voice carried more authority than she intended, or perhaps exactly as much. She stepped forward alone. The wounds told the story. Clean incisions, precise separations. Not random violence, deliberate work. Her gaze moved over the body, cataloging each detail, learning, understanding. A flicker of something stirred inside her. Not horror, recognition. Her hand lifted, almost without her permission, hovering over one of the cuts. She could see how it had been done, the angle, the pressure, the exact point where resistance gave way. A breath escaped her lips, and for a moment, she felt it again, that other awareness. This one fought. The thought slipped through her like a blade. Her hand jerked back. "No," she said sharply. One of the men stepped closer. "What is it? Can you tell what did this?" Sable looked up at him. Really looked. At the way his grip tightened on the blade. At the fear he tried to hide behind anger. At the question behind the question. "Is it you?" Her gaze softened, not with kindness, with something more complicated. "I can tell you this was no animal," she said. A murmur passed between them. "What then?" the other asked. Sable hesitated, because the truth sat just beneath the surface now. Not fully formed, but close, too close. "It knows what it's doing," she said finally. "It chooses." The words settled heavily in the clearing. No one spoke. No one wanted to. Sable turned back to the body. Her eyes moved again, slower now, more careful. There was a pattern here, not just in the wounds, in the placement, in the selection. Her gaze drifted to the man's face. Recognition flickered. She knew him, not well, but enough. "He worked the southern fields," she murmured. The men exchanged a glance. "Aye." Sable's mind turned. Marek had been a runner, fast, restless. This man, steady, predictable, different. Her breath caught. Not random. Chosen. This one runs. This one fights. The fragments aligned. Not instinct. Assessment. Judgment. Her stomach twisted. "This isn't hunting," she said slowly. The men stiffened. "Then what is it?" one demanded. Sable did not answer immediately, because the word forming in her mind felt heavier than any she had spoken before. Not beast, not curse. Something else. Something worse. "This is learning," she said. The forest seemed to close in at that. The lantern light flickered. One of the men swore under his breath. "That's no comfort healer." Sable stood. Her gaze swept the clearing once more, taking it in, committing it to memory. Because memory mattered now. Every detail, every choice, every sign. She turned back toward the path. "We need to warn the others," one of the men said. Sable nodded. "Yes," she said. But her voice had changed, subtly, almost imperceptibly, because the truth had begun to take shape inside her. Not fully, not yet, but enough to shift the ground beneath her feet. As they walked back toward the village, Sable lingered at the rear. Her eyes traced the edges of the path, the broken twigs, the disturbed earth, the faint impressions left behind. And this time, she followed them. Not away from the village, but towards something deeper, something older, something that felt familiar. Her pulse slowed, her breath steadied, and in the quiet space between one step and the next, she heard it again. Not a voice, not a thought, a presence, patient, certain, waiting. "You are beginning to understand." Sable did not respond, but she did not deny it either, because for the first time, she was no longer trying to prove that it wasn't her. She was trying to understand how much of it was. Chapter 3, The Mercy That Devours. The new moon did not wait. It never had. But this time, it came early. Sable felt it before the sun had fully set, an unease beneath her skin, like something stretching after a long confinement. Not clawing, not raging, awakening. She stood in the center of her cottage, motionless, listening to her own breath as it slowly betrayed her. Too fast, too shallow. "Not yet," she whispered. But the words held no authority. For 10 years, the change had followed a rhythm, predictable, contained, a descent she could prepare for, endure, and survive. Now, it pressed upward, unbidden. Her fingers curled, nails biting into her palms. Pain helped. It always had. But tonight, it only sharpened the edges. Sable turned toward the back room. There was no hesitation left in her, only decision. She stepped inside and barred the door behind her, the iron bolt sliding into place with a finality that echoed in her chest. The air felt tighter here now, as though the room itself knew it was no longer enough. The chains waited, faithful, familiar, insufficient. She moved quickly, securing one shackle around her wrist, then the other, her motions practiced and precise. Each clasp clicked into place with a sound she had once trusted. Once. Her breath caught as she reached for the last restraint. A tremor ran through her arm, not violent, controlled, deliberate. Sable froze. The sensation was wrong. It wasn't the surge of transformation she knew. It was cooperation. Her hand lowered slowly. "No," she said. But the word felt thinner now, less certain. Her gaze lifted to the sigils carved into the walls, each one a ward, a command, a boundary written in a language older than the village, older than memory. They had always held, because she had believed in them, because something inside her had obeyed them. A thought surfaced, cold and clear. What if it no longer does? Sable's chest tightened. The final restraint hung open before her. All she had to do was close it, finish the ritual, trust the system that had kept her alive for 10 years. Her hand hovered, and then a memory rose. Not a fragment, not a whisper, a certainty. The clasp opening, not in panic, not in struggle, but with intent. Her hand, her choice. Sable staggered back, the chain clinking softly as it pulled taut against her wrist. No, the word broke, because she understood now. Not everything, not fully, but enough. The thing inside her had not escaped. It had been released. A laugh almost rose in her throat, sharp and hollow. "Then what am I binding?" she asked the empty room. The answer came not in words, but in feeling, a presence at the edge of her thoughts, close now, closer than it had ever been. "You are not binding anything." Her breath hitched. Her eyes flicked to the mirror on the far wall. She had not turned, but the reflection, it was already watching her. Her head tilted, slowly, precisely. Sable did not move. "I am not you," she said. The reflection smiled, not wide, not monstrous, just enough. "You are not only me." The words slid through her mind like silk over steel. Sable's knees weakened. The chain pulled tight as she sank slightly, her body trembling, not from fear alone, but from the strain of holding something back that no longer wished to be held. "You kill them," she said. The reflection's smile faded. "We choose them." The difference struck like a blow. Sable's stomach twisted. That is not mercy. It is purpose. Her breath came faster now, her pulse thundering in her ears. "I heal," she said. "I save what I can." The reflection leaned closer, closer than the mirror should allow. "You preserve what is already broken." Sable flinched. No, but the denial faltered, because she had seen it. In the wounds she stitched, in the lives she prolonged, in the quiet suffering that never truly ended. The village did not thrive, it endured. And something inside her, it did not endure. It judged. A sharp knock shattered the moment. Sable gasped, her head snapping toward the door. "Dawnridge," a voice called. "Open up." Another voice followed. "We know you're in there." Her blood ran cold. Too soon. They had come too soon. The reflection's voice softened. "They are learning, too." Sable's gaze darted between the door and the mirror. Her heart pounded. The chains hung half-secured. The ritual incomplete. The change already beginning. Her skin prickled, heat and cold warring beneath the surface. Her vision sharpened, edges growing too clear, too defined. She could hear the men outside, every shift of their feet, every breath, every whisper spoken just beyond the wood. "They'll break it down," one said. "Then we see what she's hiding." Sable's chest tightened. This was the moment, the choice. Bind herself. Finish the ritual. Let them find her helpless, contained, perhaps convincing them, perhaps not. Perhaps they would kill her where she lay, chained and weakened. Or she could stop pretending. Her gaze returned to the mirror, to the version of herself that no longer looked uncertain. "Will you stop?" she asked. The reflection tilted its head. "Will you?" The answer sat between them, heavy, unavoidable. The door shuddered under a heavy blow. Wood cracked. "Sable!" the voice called again, louder now. "Open this door." Her breath slowed, not calm, focused. 10 years of survival had led to this moment. Not a failure of control, a revelation of it. She looked down at the final restraint. Then, slowly, she let it fall from her hand. The chain swung, the metal ringing softly in the cold air. Behind her, the mirror stilled, not separate, not watching, waiting. The door splintered. Light and shadow crashed into the room as the men forced their way inside, blades drawn, fear etched deep into their faces. They stopped when they saw her, standing, unbound, half-chained, her head lifted slowly. Her eyes met theirs, and for a heartbeat, there was no monster, only Sable Dawnridge. "Leave," she said. The word carried weight, authority, something older than fear. The men hesitated. One stepped forward anyway, jaw tight. "We've found tracks," he said, "leading here." Sable's gaze flicked to the blade in his hand, then back to his eyes. "Yes," she said. The truth landed between them. The man swallowed. Then he never finished, because Sable moved. Not fast, not wild, precise. The world narrowed to angles and motion, to breath and balance, to the exact point where resistance would give way. Her hand caught his wrist, twisted. The blade fell. A single step, a shift of weight. He hit the ground hard, the air driven from his lungs. The others froze, not because of what she had done, but how easily she had done it. Sable released him immediately, stepping back, her chest rising and falling in controlled breaths. "I said leave," she repeated. Her voice had changed, not louder, not harsher, clearer. The men backed away slowly, dragging their fallen companion with them. None of them spoke. None of them needed to. They had seen enough. When the door finally closed again, the silence returned. But it was not the same silence. Sable stood in the center of the room, the broken door hanging from its hinges, the chains cold against her skin. Her gaze drifted to the mirror. There was no separation now, no delay, no difference, only one reflection. Her lips parted slightly. "What have I done?" she asked. And for the first time, the answer did not come from somewhere else. "I chose," she said. The words settled into her bones. Not comfort, not condemnation, truth. Outside, the night deepened. The moon did not rise. And somewhere in the forest, something waited. Not to hunt, but to be met. Sable closed her eyes, then opened them again, and this time, she did not look away. Chapter 4. The Name of the Monster. The forest did not welcome her. It never had. But tonight, it did not pretend otherwise. Branches groaned as Sable passed beneath them, their limbs bending just enough to brush her shoulders, her arms, her throat. The air was thick with rot and frost, a scent that clung to the back of her tongue like something remembered, but never spoken. The village lights had long since vanished behind her. She did not look back. There was nothing there for her now. Only questions, only fear. And she had carried those long enough. Her steps were steady, measured, each one placed with intention. The path, if it could still be called that, twisted deeper into the forest than she had ever allowed herself to go. The ground softened beneath her boots, damp with something more than melted frost. The silence grew heavier, pressing against her ears until even her own breath felt intrusive. Then she felt it. Not ahead, not behind, around. A presence that did not move, yet was everywhere at once. Waiting. Sable stopped. Her pulse slowed, not from calm, but from something sharper. Recognition. "You brought me here before," she said into the dark. The words did not echo. The forest absorbed them. A flicker of memory answered instead. Not images, sensations, smaller hands, weaker breath, fear that had not yet learned how to be hidden. A child, her, lost, and something finding her, not hunting, choosing. Sable's jaw tightened. "I remember," she said. The lie tasted bitter, but the truth came anyway. A clearing opened before her, not by chance, not by nature. The trees curved around it in a perfect, unnatural arc, their trunks twisted inward as though bowing to something at the center. Sable stepped into it. The air changed, colder, still. The ground beneath her feet was bare earth, dark and soft, untouched by frost. And at its heart, a stone, number. Not a stone, an altar. Rough-hewn, ancient, its surface worn smooth by time and something more deliberate. Carvings marked its edges, symbols older than the sigils she had etched into her walls. These were not meant to bind, they were meant to call. Sable approached slowly, her breath shallow, her thoughts quiet, because she understood now. This was not where it ended. This was where it began. "You chose me," she said. The words settled into the clearing like a weight. For a long moment, nothing answered. Then, the ground shifted. Not violently, not suddenly. A ripple beneath the surface, as though something vast turned in its sleep beneath the earth. Sable did not move. Her hands hung at her sides, fingers loose, ready. Not to fight, to accept. A shape emerged. Not fully formed, not entirely real. A distortion in the air above the altar, like heat bending light, but colder, darker, deeper. It had no face, no limbs, no single form that could be named. And yet, she recognized it, the presence from her thoughts, from her memories, from the spaces between her own breaths. "You came." The voice did not sound. It existed. Sable's lips parted. "You've been killing them," she said. The shape pulsed. "We have been correcting." Her chest tightened. They were people. They were patterns. The words struck something deep inside her, something that had always noticed, always measured, always judged. Sable's gaze hardened. "That is not your choice to make." The shape shifted, its edges warping, folding inward. "It was yours." The world seemed to tilt. Memories surged. Not fragments, not whispers. Truth. Her hands, steady, precise. Her breath, calm, focused. The moment of decision, not lost, not stolen. Chosen. Every time. Sable staggered back. No. But the denial had no foundation left. "You guided me," she said, her voice breaking. "You pushed me." We revealed. The shape expanded slightly, filling more of the clearing without ever truly touching it. You saw what they were. what they would become, what they would do. Images flickered through her mind. Marek, running, yes, but running from debts he would never repay, from choices that would bleed others dry. The man beneath the oak, steady, predictable, his hands steady enough to harm without being caught. Threads of harm, of suffering, of quiet, unnoticed cruelty. Sable's breath came faster now. "I heal," she said. "I don't judge." "You do both." The truth of it cut deeper than any blade, because she had, in small ways, subtle ways, choosing who to save first, who to spend more time on, who to let slip. She had always told herself it was necessity, but something inside her had known better. "You used that," she said. "We are that." Silence fell, heavy, unavoidable. Sable's gaze dropped to her hands, the same hands that stitched wounds, the same hands that ended lives. Not two, one. "I am not a vessel," she said quietly. The shape stilled. For the first time, it felt uncertain. "You are the continuation." Sable looked up. Her eyes were no longer afraid. "You're wrong," she said. The words settled into the clearing like stone. The shape pulsed, shifting, pressing closer. "Without us, you would have died. I know. Without us, you are nothing." Sable's lips curved, not into a smile, but into something steadier. "Then I will be nothing," she said. The air snapped. The shape recoiled, its edges fracturing, distorting. "You would end us." Sable stepped forward, onto the altar. The stone was cold beneath her feet. Ancient, waiting. "I will end what chooses for me," she said. The shape surged, not outward, inward, toward her, into her. The world shattered, not in sound, in sensation. Her body burned, froze, split along lines that had never truly separated. Voices, no, thoughts, collided, overlapped, consumed. We are purpose. I am choice. We are clarity. I am doubt. We are mercy. I decide what that means. The force of it tore through her. Every memory, every action, every justification stripped bare. There was no dividing line, no clean edge, only truth. And truth demanded something in return. Sable screamed, not in pain, in understanding. Her hands clenched, her body shook. And then she let go. Not of control, of certainty. The shape faltered. For the first time, it had no answer, because it had never needed one, until now. Sable breathed, slow, deliberate. "I will not be your weapon," she said. The words were quiet, final. The shape thinned, fractured. "You will lose everything." Sable closed her eyes. "I already have." And then she chose, not to destroy it, not to surrender to it, to redefine it. The force collapsed inward, folding into her, no longer separate, no longer guiding, only present, silent, waiting, but not in control. Sable fell to her knees on the altar, her breath ragged, her body trembling with the weight of what remained. Not gone, never gone, but changed, bound not by chains, by will. Dawn crept slowly into the clearing. Thin light filtered through the twisted trees, touching the altar, the earth, her face. Sable lifted her head. The forest was quieter now. Not empty, but still. The presence within her did not speak, did not push. It existed as part of her, not above, not below. She rose slowly. Her body ached, her mind heavier than it had ever been. Because the clarity she had been offered, the certainty, it was gone. In its place, doubt, choice, burden. She turned back toward the village. The path would not be easy. It never had been, and now it never would be again. But when she stepped forward, nothing stepped for her. The village would still stand, the forest would still watch, and Sable Dawnridge would live with what she was, not a healer, not a monster, something far more difficult, something human. The end. Thank you for listening. If the hollow mercy of Sable Dawnridge pulled you in, there are more worlds waiting for you. More stories that refuse to stay buried. Until next time, my friend.